Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to my show. This is Balanced Life with me, your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle, on conversations that connect to a healthier you. And I'm so happy that you joined us today. We have such a pertinent conversation to what's going on in our world right now that I really think this is going to help a lot of people. And I'm really glad that you tuned in. But before we get started, we are an interactive show. And I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to call in if you want and ask a question or make a comment. It would be great to hear from you. So to do that, you want to call 323-524-2599. Again, 323-524-2599. That's the number to reach us. You'll be put on hold for a second and then we'll bring you in. At any point, if you feel you have a question for the guest or you feel like you're in this moment where it's pertaining to you, or you just want to make a comment, give us a call. We'd love to hear it. Also, I want you to know that during this time, and when all of us are at our stay-at-home orders, I, as you know, am a health coach and a personal trainer and fitness instructor. And so I have had to pivot my career, and I am offering free health coaching sessions, not a session, but health coaching sessions to anyone who's interested. Because we're all going through something. This isn't a one-size-fits-all deal in what we're going through right now. And though I know there's some stages that we can all relate to over the last several months that have made us had to change mindset and the way we do and think of things, I'm here to individually help you, whether it's, I got to keep running back and forth to the refrigerator, help stop me. I'm sick of the workout I'm doing. I need to think how to become an entrepreneur now that we're in this climate. All these things are part of balancing your life, and I'm here to help you do that. So to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, spelled DEBI.com. And on there, there's a contact page, and just give me your contact information and hit send. It comes straight to me and we can get a hold of each other. I'm also teaching Zoom classes that are free to anybody on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And if you're interested in joining us and would like the link, go to the same place, balancelifebydebbie.com, and hit the contact page. So there we go. Now, great show for you today, and one of my favorite guests is here. So I'm going to do a little introduction for her right now. So Kathi Sharpe-Ross is a 30-year entrepreneur and global brand and lifestyle marketing guru. Kathi is founder, CEO, and president of the Sharpe Alliance Consulting Agency. She is the curator of the reinventionexchange.com, which is the hub for all things in life's reinvention, and a regular contributor to the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, and industry conferences. She is a sought-after speaker, workshop leader, and philanthropist. Kathi has been helping brands and businesses reinvent through a variety of tools and disciplines over decades of change and disruption. Kathi has a new book, and her new book, Reinvention, Reinvent Your Life. What are you waiting for? Is an inspirational roadmap to action steps that help you not only to discover, but live out your dreams. So to talk all about how we can do that, will you please welcome my good friend, my birthday sister, and a frequent guest to the show, Kathi Sharpe-Ross. Thank you.
Hi,
Kathi. Yay.
Hello. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, yeah, you're all those things and more.
Oh, it's so fun. I have to say that it's so fun being here with you. And since I've been doing virtual chats and you've been on my show, it's really fun to be at this stage and be on your show and be able to share what we're going to talk about today. So
oh, yay. Well, thank you for saying that. You're such a great guest because you have a lot of enthusiasm and passion about what you do and what you're doing for others. And that's really what my show is about. It's, that's contagious if you ask me. So you've been on the show. My audience, we can't assume that everybody has watched the past shows. So what I'd like to do before we get into the book and how great it is for what's going on right now.
Right.
I want you to give us a little background about you and kind of what led you into all those wonderful things I talked about in the introduction. And then specifically, we'll get into what led you to writing the book. And I know it was a journey for you and how that happened. And then we're going to get into the book. So
thank you. Well, absolutely. So you mentioned 30 years entrepreneur. I decided at a very early age, and I don't know where it came from, but I just knew that I kind of wanted to do my own thing. So grew up in Australia, lived in different countries, traveled the world with my family as a kid, and probably grew up with the perception that there was no box in this world and very few borders and parameters that we couldn't either overcome or cross over or just sort of live in a very open and exposed way to what's possible in life. So I think I've got to give a lot of credit to my parents, one being my mom being very spiritual, my father being very entrepreneurial with what we used to call itchy feet because he loved to travel. I think I was given great exposure at a young age, and I think it set the tone for what I wanted out of the rest of my life. When we finally settled here in Los Angeles when I was 14 years old, which has always been home to me since then, although Australia will always be home in my heart.
That's where your heart is.
Yes. That it was just about living our best possible life and having what we want in life, and anything is possible. Those were kind of the rose-colored lenses through which I always looked at life. And I very quickly after college decided I was going to open my own business, which I did. And 31 years later, here I am still doing it. Ironically, now doing it from the comfort of my son's bedroom, who moved out a year ago. So who would have thought? But I've been, running an agency in an office not remotely, but externally for 30 years. So it's pretty amazing to be at this place and being able to be the type of person that has lived my life doing what I want when I want, which frankly was the impetus over a dinner conversation with a friend one night. And we were talking about the fact that people say that to me a lot. And I thought, well, it's not luck. It's certainly hard work.
Yes.
But anybody could do this. Anybody could do what they want and not necessarily run a marketing agency. But, if you really have passions in life, why can't you feel entitled to actually live those passions out and do what you want with your life? So that was sort of the impetus for the book.
And that, I think it was 10 years in the making, this book, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. So it was a moment in time when I had this epiphany and I said, wow, if anybody could do this, how do we get to share with them the opportunity? So at the time, the internet wasn't as prevalent as it was, and blogs and podcasts and all these things that we're now doing weren't quite as prevalent. So I said, I'm going to write a book. I'd never written a book. I never thought I wanted to be an author. I journaled since I was 10 years old, and I still have those sitting in my room. But I never thought, one day I want to be an author and I have a book in me and I have to write a book. But it seemed to me the natural way to communicate the ideal. And what I set out to do at that time was to start to curate other people's stories, because I figured if they could do it, they could set an example for others. And if the people would read stories of all these great men and women from all walks of life and be able to inspire them and say, well, gee, if he could do it, I could do that. And if she could do that, well, I could pull that off. And the irony of the 10 years of my book in the making is that it took 10 years, and that was not my intention.
No, and it never is, but it's very difficult to the best intentions get laid out, and you could be very scheduled and map out all this time that you want to write this particular book. but you would, other things come up,
Well,
as we
that's
well
it.
know. I mean, look at
raising two
what's
young
happened.
boys, right?
Yes.
I had two young boys that I was raising at the time who are now 20 and 23. So do the math at that age, 10 and 13. And I had a business that I was running, a major marketing company, global clients, huge initiatives and projects, brands and companies and events that everybody's heard of that are household names. And so that was okay with me. I didn't beat myself up about it.
Yeah.
I just I touched it every day in some way. And the first thing I did, ironically, I was handling a marketing conference, and Arianna Huffington was one of the principals that was involved in the women's conference. And we had a dinner party the night before, and I was sitting next to her, and I said, Arianna, I'm going to be writing a book about reinventing your life. I'd love to write a column for the HuffPost. Now, I had not thought of that. I just said it in the
Isn't
moment.
it funny
I
how
didn't even know what was coming out of my mouth.
That's the universe.
Right?
You put thoughts out there, the universe comes in, and it's very, right time, right moment
It
kind
was.
of situation.
And she looked at me and she just said, oh, darling, of course we should do that. Gave me her card, said, call my editor tomorrow. And within a week, I was blogging for the HuffPost and now for Thrive Global, because that's where she pivoted to.
Yeah.
And I created a website about 8 years ago, which became the Reinvention Exchange, which was a place for me to create a community for stories, to share inspirational and motivational thoughts, to curate content from all kinds of great companies, thought leaders, inspirational websites. And it was a place now that was a destination. So although maybe I was reinventing parts of my life every day in different ways, especially with all kinds of different clients and different industries coming into my world, I didn't do some huge pivot. I've been in the same marriage for 31 years. I've had the same company. Reinventions that come and go. And one of my favorite expressions is that reinventions come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, it's in your book.
So I think that says a lot about it.
It does. And I have to say, because I know you well and I've known you many years, Kathi and I share a birthday with also her older sister.
Yes, we
and not her oldest sister, but her
middle sister.
Right. And it just so happens that we all kind of, generally try to celebrate our birthdays together, and that your sister is my best friend. And so I've known you many years, because Carolyn has been my best friend for almost 30 years. So, the one thing we say about you, and we've been saying about you since I can remember, is that you're a positive person, that you're always so happy, that you always go for what you want and you don't give up. And I think your book is a perfect example of this. And because of it, you become motivation and inspiration for others. You created this website. This website became a place where you could curate and then lift to create a book, to write this book. And, a lot of people after 2 years will go, I'm not meant to write a book. Forget it. I can't get to it. But you're relentless. And you're like that with most things and anything. I know you and I have given a couple of baby showers and wedding showers together. I know that you take the lead, that you go for what you say you're going to do, and then you give us then some. And that to me is really remarkable and commendable. And that is how come this book is off the ground. And that, unfortunately, I know your launch date was March 20th. And the idea was, way before we went into lockdown, that you were going to travel and you were going to launch this book, and you've had to pivot, and you did it with such elegance and grace as well. And look what you do. You get these virtual chats going on your book 3 days a week. Then you're very, organized about it. And I've not contributed. Well, I have.
You have definitely contributed.
I've said a few, but I come in and I visit them, and they're people that are in your book. Their stories are so relevant, and everything is kind of matching or weaving into what's going on in our world today. Yeah. But what's the most, I would say, kind of reoccurring thing or amazing thing about your book, because I have had an opportunity to go through it, is that even though all the stories are different, the basic premise is a lot of people, and I host a lot of people on my show that had maybe high-powered jobs, either in the finance industry, they were either doctors or lawyers, or they were running very large companies, CEOs of companies that weren't happy. Mm-hmm. And that they had happiness out there, but they didn't know how to grab onto it. And they actually reinvented their lives. Yeah. Everybody's got a different story and sort of the way that they went around and did it. And now they didn't realize it, but their purpose is so, it's so contagious. You know, people are catching on.
I think people see that and they look at someone that's done that. And I think as we get to a certain age and there's a level of maturity and confidence, we're seeing a lot of people step out of that traditional corporate role or wanting to. So when they see one person do it, they kind of go, oh, wow, wait, I'm going to see how he does. I'm going to watch how she does. And as they see these people in these new, it's almost like a sense of giddiness that these folks have. And not to say, and I think you heard one of the interviews that we did with one of the guys that left a huge global Fortune 500 company. And it was a big deal to leave, because not only are you leaving the security of corporate America, but you're also, your identity is attached to that title. When you are the president of PepsiCo, there is no question that people are going to return those phone calls. You're going to be on the party list. You're going to be on the guest list for an event. You're the guy that people are going to call and say, come be a speaker at XYZ. When you no longer have that title under your name, there's a big question mark as to where you fit into those scenarios. And so the identity bit and the insecurity that can breed is a really serious thing that a lot of folks we've talked to.
But to work past that, to realize you can create a new identity, that you can reinvent and create something and be just as magical and just as defined by whatever it is that your passion is, as opposed to what it is that who you were working for and what your status. I can attest to that. I was a television commercial producer for 30 years.
Right.
And I identified with that. I was a mother, a friend, a wife, and a producer. And those were my little titles that I went around, my life with, basically. And though I had this side hustle of health and fitness, because that was my passion. But I realized when the commercial part ended, which was around 2012, 2013, that was about the last time I produced a commercial. I lost a whole piece of me fell off. And I could have either ran away from that and said, okay, well, now I have no value in this world, so who am I? What am I? But I realized I did have value because I had something I was passionate about that I could move up.
And I'll tell you, And what's really interesting, Debbie, is that the challenge is truly not only in getting to that next place with that passion, but for many, it's actually figuring out what that passion is. So imagine being at that crossroads and actually not being able to, you've just had kids or you've been embroiled in this job forever and you're the primary supporter of the family, and all of a sudden you're feeling stir crazy. I mean, look at, we all call it a midlife crisis. I have a chapter, about this. It's, It is a cry for reinvention. You don't have to blow up your life. You can actually do some really incredible things that are going to nurture your soul and help you discover what your passions are.
I agree. So let's break it down, because we're talking a little broadly about it, but let's break it down let's even start. What is reinvention? What would you just alluded to it, but what would you say when you have a passion that's kind of nipping at you, right? And you're just exhausted physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, everything about you is exhausted from this, let's say, high-powered job or this demand that you have, you're not getting satisfaction. How would you define reinvention?
Look, reinvention can be and is defined by so many people in so many different ways. But for the purpose of this book, which touches on so many versions, the aha moments, the I didn't mean to reinvent, when life throws you curveballs, the the gift and the opportunity of creating the life you want. We all come at it from different points of view, but I think what's really critical is at the core, we need to learn how to listen to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something a lot of people don't know how to do. And we may be still, and we may sit in the car with no music, or we may meditate. But to take those messages in those moments that are coming to you in those moments and really say, I need to do something about this, and not just kind of go, yeah, wouldn't it be nice if, and then go about your business, but to actually put a pin in that and say, I'm going to actually give that a little more thought. I'm going to give that a voice. I'm going to spend an hour on Saturday when I have time. I'm going to create an hour. I'm going to distance myself from the everythings and the everybody's that need me or I'm committed to. And I'm going to give that a little thought. And so it's about taking a moment to listen to yourself and recognizing those aha moments. And they may not show up as big aha moments. It could be you driving down the street and
Mm-hmm.
seeing a gorgeous billboard and it gets your attention. It might be a conversation you heard or an Instagram post, and you look at what other people are doing and you're going, God, I wish I could be doing that, or I wish I had that, or I wish I knew how to do that. Those are the things to listen to, because there is no reason. Those people aren't, superheroes. They have no special powers. They're not magical. They're real people just like us. So take stock and kind of pay attention to those moments and then say, how do I go about that?
Which is why, and you wrote the book, so to give people that roadmap and those action steps to be able to take those aha moments and put them to use, because so many times fear of failure is going to keep us from moving forward. And absolutely. I know you allude to that in the book.
Yeah. And fear is a big a couple of things that really stop people in their tracks is the fear. Mm-hmm. The fear of the unknown, the fear of failure. Having courage to take on something new is very commendable, and it's not easy for everybody.
It's not easy. It's a lot of
work.
We
moved around my whole life. To me, it was an adventure. Every time someone said, we're moving, I said, woohoo, where are we going? And that's the way I still feel.
I know, that's
not
what I was saying.
Everybody in my family felt that way.
I know, but that's what I'm saying about you. You just take life and you just grab on and you go with what's given to you, and you make lemonade out of those lemons, whatever, and you make it, and you go beyond that. You go beyond the lemonade. Because
there's a sense of discovery and curiosity, and to me personally, that's important. For others, it'll be another reason. You've got to understand your why. Your why is the driver that mm-hmm. will motivate you to dig deep into it, to delve into it further, to stick with it when you feel like, forget it, I don't need to do this anymore. With the book, I wanted this. It didn't matter if I was a New York Times bestseller or if 5 people bought my book. I was doing it for me. I was doing it to inspire and motivate. And I had my own personal reason. I knew my why. And so nothing else mattered. And I touched it in some way for 10 years. And suddenly I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I have a book in my hand. How did that happen? But I think, feeling that sense of entitlement is another hurdle for people. I'm not entitled to have that kind of life. I've got to take care of the kids and I'm a single parent. That's just not an option for me. Well, it is, and it may take longer.
Yeah, and that gets back to putting yourself first, which is one of the things that I try to help people do, is find that self-care that puts them first, because that's how you're of value, not only to you, but to everybody else. You can't be valuable to those that love you and beyond if you don't become valued to you. You have to be valuable to you, and that's with self-care and putting yourself first. So that's the first part. It's sort of the realization of putting yourself first. Having the courage to take the next step, which is the work. So tell us a little bit about what that entails. What is that work? So now these aha moments that have come down, you've actually put pen to paper and you've come up with ideas on what you want to do, how you want to do it, how you can be of value within this realm of what you want to do. You're reinventing your life. And granted, I reinvented my life in my late 50s. I'm now approaching mid 60s, you know?
No,
so
you're not.
yeah, I know it feels like
You're not. I don't believe that.
I am. Hey, I'm going to be, what do you call it? What's the insurance that you get? Medicare. I'll be on Medicare 2 years. So
that's okay. We're all AARP members at this point.
Yeah. Well, that was a long time ago. But, you know, that's the other thing. The fear of, oh, it's too late. I'm too old. Nobody's going to want to work with older me. No one's, you know, here I am in my mid 50s. I was 55 and decided I'm going back to school. Right. I'm going to learn all these skills that I'm passionate about because I've been talking about it for years. People are asking me questions that I don't really kind of legally, technically have the answers to. My passion is answering them. So I go back to school for 3 years. I get all these certifications. I do all this stuff. And there's still part of me that says, what are you doing? Everybody is in their 20s and 30s that's doing what you're doing. What are you doing? And that, you know, I do have value. I have value for people that are, you know, 10 years younger, 10 years older, and my age. I have value to give those people that I, in the beginning, really questioned. Right. So you have to get over the fact that it's never too late, you know, and there's a lot of us that just won't take the leap, especially midlife. So how does that break down? How do we get to the work that we need to do to put us on the road that says we can do this?
The why is a big factor, which I mentioned a moment ago. Mm-hmm. You need to have a motivation and a reason to get you through the dark hours, to get you through all the naysayers that are around you, mm-hmm. that will try to tell you, why are you crazy? What are you thinking? You know, your own voice in your head, which can be our worst enemy, and to quiet that voice and to really enable yourself to put a plan together. And the plan is everything. The plan, the roadmap is your GPS system to get from point A to point Z. And think about it this way. If you got in your car and you wanted to go somewhere, but yet didn't identify where, how are you going to end up where you want to go if you haven't identified on your GPS or your Waze? I need to get to this address or that restaurant. Well, good. Make a left turn here, go 2 miles, make a right. It is the roadmap for every step of the way. Now, you may decide midway that, you know what? I thought I wanted to go to that restaurant, but you know what? I want to go to the other one. You're going to course correct on your ways, and you're going to find other ways to get there. And if you think about life in its simplest form and the ability to put a roadmap together, and again, it could be the 5-minute reinvention or the 10-year reinvention. If you sit down and you said it before, pen to paper is everything because it really creates a very visceral, authentic connection, and very accountable moments come from that. So although we love our phones and having our smartphones in our hand is second nature, but the ability to write things out and map them out on paper does sort of take it a step deeper. So however you document this process, do it. And I even notate in my book several times where I say, take out that pen and paper, take out that journal, take it out and write down what I'm saying, or create your understanding of your goals versus your values versus where you're spending your time. And I stop in the book and I kind of go, okay, no, I mean it. Like, put the book down right now. No, don't just go, okay, I'm glossing over it, but go do it. And I do that for a reason, because that's what we do. We say, okay, I'm going to read the book and then I'll go do all these things. And then we don't. And then we wake up in 5 years and we go, I can't believe that I just, you know, I wanted to do this and I've dreamed of doing that, and she's doing it and he's doing it and I'm not. That's where we have to, like,
it's excuses. And I know you have a whole chapter called excuses, but I was talking to my daughter about this morning because she manages creative teams for a very large it's not very large, but a very popular, should I say, social media outlet company. And she manages these teams. So she's very, she puts her charts together. She puts her timelines together, her meetings. She puts the creatives together, and she's it's not necessarily pen to paper, but she's doing all the scheduling, online, especially now. So everybody can, because they can't all be in the same room. And she's done that her whole life since grade school. I'm so the opposite. I'm such a free spirit. I'm so like, oh, I have it in my head. I've got to do this. I do like, a list, almost like a shopping list of things I need to get done in the day, but I'm not nearly as detailed as she is. And part of, I think, success is to be organized and is to not find the excuses. Once I do this with my clients. I make them write everything down. Action steps towards their goals of each category.
Go. And there's accountability in that to
that's
yourself,
my point.
Which is everything, right?
Everything. You've got to be accountable to you first. And the only way you can do that is to really see it, to concretely see it. And that's what I think is so important about not giving into the excuses, because it's so easy to be either lazy or to procrastinate, because I'm definitely could be known the queen of that. But
you know what, I want to say two things on that. One is not to be overly concerned about your sense of organization and writing things down, because some people are going to be like your daughter and they're going to be that to the nth degree. And some are going to be more like what you described, which is much more reasonable and is really more attainable. And
more
so
realistic.
It's not like, and you're not going to not get to your goals if you have a Post-it note and every day you scribble 5 things down that you want to do, or the big goals, or the tactical steps. I mean, yes, there are ways to do it, but I think the simple form can be equally effective for certain types of people, because that's what works for them. The other thing is to create a reward system and to find a little way with every moment. It could be this, I thought I would call someone to see if they want to be my mentor. Good for you. That was it for the day. You're done. Pat yourself on the back, do a happy dance, go for a run, have a piece of chocolate, do something that says, I did it. Tomorrow I'll tackle the next thing. And you know what? By the 3rd, 4th, 5th day or week, whatever that timeline you put yourself on, you're going to want to do 2 or 3 more of those things, because those things will be the reward. The result of what you did will show up and go, wow, I did that. I got this out of it. This happened. And imagine if I do more of that or more of these things that move me towards your goal. So that's another thing to really take into account. Making a plan, creating a reward system, as small as that can be, as large as you want it, but that will keep you on track. And one more thing to point out is keep going back to the why. Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this going to benefit in the long run? And how do I do this in a way that makes my life better, happier, more successful, whatever it is that you're looking to get out of it. And don't be afraid that your plan, your goal took a sudden left turn, didn't work out the way you wanted. That's
we
the beauty
just get
of
right
it.
back on the road. Yeah.
The next book's going to be called The Reinvention.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You've got to be open to that. We have friends that are serial reinventors and, who just kind of says like, okay, great. I've tried that. Now I'm ready for my next chapter.
Well, and I've talked about this before, because our failures, and I hate to use the word failure, because I really don't think there are any failures, but they're ultimately our ultimate successes. But we have to know that, because if we just say, that didn't work, I gave up. And giving up is the only thing that can be considered a failure, is giving up. Yeah. So, but if you you can change the way you go about it, you can pivot, like you said, you take a little turn and go, oh, well, maybe I don't want to go that direction because something else is pushing you in this direction. Right. But if you give up 100%, you'll never get to that. If you turn your car around and go back in your garage, you don't get to that destination.
Exactly.
And I'm learning that more and more. It's so funny here. I get to my 60s and another big one is never stop learning, never stop thinking that, it's too late. I know everything I need to know. You could never know everything. It's never too late.
It's like, what are you going to do for the next 25, 30 years of your life, Debbie? It's like a whole nother lifetime.
It's a whole other lifetime. It's a whole other phase. It's a reinvention. It's a whole other thing. And what I really like about this book, also, you talk a lot about happiness and success. And that's something that we own. We are the creators and we are the manifestors of our own happiness. How we find happiness is up to us. And a big portion of it comes from what we do with our life, how we map out our life. And this book does it so eloquently. It gives you, it kind of takes the excuses away. It says, you know what? I figured it out for myself. I've done all this research. It took me 10 years to get it all done. I've put all these people that have done these different ways and look where they are now. Let me motivate you and give you the tools and the roadmap that is going to get you from the start to the finish and keep you going. Yeah. So I love how you've done it for us, that you've done, there's a lot of self-help books out there. But when I started reading the stories and some of the stories I know, because some of the people I know, obviously, that are in the book, and I started to see how you laid out all of your action steps, your tools, it's so great because if you as we were talking, schedule yourself time in the day to go through this book. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get something different off the ground because you're not happy with what you're doing, this book takes you there.
Thank you. I appreciate that because when I set out to do it, you can see there's a power tool that's one of 26 power tools. And
there we go.
The big question of what makes you happy. That's everything. But when I set out to do it, I wanted it to be lighthearted, anecdotal, something that you could pick up and open any day of the week, any hour of the day, to any chapter and just kind of go, let me pick up a little nugget and put it down and go away. And you don't have to read it to cover to cover if you don't have the time. You can pop it open, read a hugely inspirational quote. I mean, God, Quincy Jones wrote my foreword.
I know, it's a great foreword. It's a great foreword. He is such a big fan of yours. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
You know what? If I may, since we just brought him up, or I brought him up, but I would love, if I may, there is one little quote I'm going to pull out of his foreword. And now I'm looking for the page and I can't find it.
Oh, I don't have it handy.
Here, I've got it.
Okay. It's really good.
He says, oftentimes I find that society tries to put you in a box because the individuals in it are all stuck in one together. But I think that the ones who make it out are the people who remain in constant pursuit of maximizing their potential. What he goes on to say is absolutely lovely, but
about you, which is fabulous, which everybody has to get the book so they can read more about it.
That's right.
But that's so true for the music industry too, and for the entertainment industry in general, being, that I was in it, they do put you in a box. And, for me, from behind the scenes, they see me as a producer. They'll never see me as anything else.
And a female producer.
And a female producer that isn't, and I was very alpha in the respect that I had a lot of respect from, everything from the Teamsters and the Grips, the electrical department to the advertising agency and the client. So it ran the gamut of where, I was able to manage a set.
Right.
But I was in a box because when I started sort of looking outside that box a little bit, to stay in the industry after my divorce, my passion wasn't in it. But I also, nobody wanted to look at me outside that box when I was an actress. And they always wanted me to be the girl next door. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't ugly enough. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't fat. We always think that we're not enough. And we got to start with we are enough
to
get out of the box. And those actors that took themselves out of the box, look at how they've reinvented themselves within the realm of that.
Yep.
And that's what I think Quincy Jones was talking about,
Yep.
is
Yep.
once you show your colors in one area, you get boxed in and nobody believes. And then you don't believe, if you don't believe that you can get out of
then
that.
You can't project that.
That's right.
And
I love that. That launches your book. That starts off with such a positive.
Yeah.
That
it's pretty special.
Maximize your full potential. Figure out what that is. If you've always had something that you wanted to do with your life, what is stopping you? You have to go to, is it because you think you're not enough? You're not good at, you going back to what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah.
You have to get, you give us the roadmap to go ahead and to do all of that. And I just love that we have that opportunity to pick up this book and to create our future with it. Really. You're giving
thank you. I think and I give a lot of credit to those who shared their stories, who I recognized moments in their lives for so many different reasons. And I think that's what's so fun. There were 30 different stories in here, but being able to share that and for people to be very open and very honest. And I think for some, it was an amazing exercise because they just kind of took for granted what they did. They never really stopped and thought about it. For others, it was very intentional. Some were in very, difficult places in their life for different reasons. So I'm very grateful for those who shared that and who continue to share it. We do these reinvention virtual chats 3 times a week now that are an amazing community of conversations where I have a guest speaker come on. I'm starting with the book and working my way through a whole list of other people because I was going to launch a podcast. And at this point, reinvention virtual chats on Zoom with a community is, my version of
They're very valuable. They're very valuable. And for those who have or haven't read the book, the people, you're highlighting people and their stories. And everything, even the story you told at the beginning of the podcast today, has value because everybody has a story. Right. When you hear other people's stories, it inspires us to be able to say, yes, I can do it too. Right. And oh my God, I had no idea. Everything always looks so rosy on the outside, but there was a road to get there, and there's a lot of hard work and commitment usually to get there, especially if you're changing something around midlife.
And an emotional overhaul. I mean,
Absolutely.
Just went through, think about what I just went through. I had to reinvent my book launch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the great irony here, with an event planned March 27th in LA, which I thought was going to be the big aha moment, and one in New York and another in San Francisco.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I had to pivot and go, okay, and this is what I do for a living, fortunately. So to be able to sort of say, problem, solution, which way do we go? How do we do it? Let's do it. I happen to have an amazing team that work with me, and they have been my rocks, both of them, in creating so much around me. But there's an excitement around the creativity and the conversation and the messaging, and most importantly, at a time like this, to give people a whole level of inspiration and tools to deal with the changes that everybody's being forced. I mean, right now, people are either being forced to reinvent their lives or they are being invited to reinvent their lives. And it's so true. Really pivotal moment. I mean, if you're sitting at home and you've got 30% more time on your hand, or you did 3 weeks ago when you were really in the nucleus of, oh my God, I'm at home and I can't work and I've got to do, there was a moment there where everybody said, okay, I'm going to pick up an art project. I'm going to do a puzzle. I'm going to learn Italian and while I work out at home. And all of a sudden, this time that we were given became a silver lining for those who were able to recognize the opportunity. And for those who had to really work through the challenge and the intensity and the, much harder emotional and mental evolution that was not easy. But this is about giving tools to reframe the way anything comes at you in life.
Right.
and
Because
how
let's
to deal
face
with
it,
it.
I mean, we've been at it for a while now. We talked earlier before we started the show about the
Right.
phases that we've gone through. We're kind of all in
Right.
the phase of I'm over it. But I mean, there is also that point, like you're saying, where you can take advantage of the nuggets that are being thrown at you right now.
Yeah.
And again, not to beat a dead horse, but you are so good at that and doing that pivot and making it a valuable pivot, not only for yourself, but for others as well, and giving them inspiration that they can pivot too. No matter what you're doing, this is your opportunity. If you're a server and you're not working right now and you've been trying to write a book, or you have a passion in something, how can you take that passion, your book maps it out for you, take that passion, reinvent it for the environment that we're in right now, and turn it into something that's valuable for you, and then in turn for others.
And I think what, you know, a lot of us are learning right now that there are other ways to do life. And we may not have intended to have to go through this 2-month period that we're going through, but the gift of just stopping in our tracks and being forced to evaluate, question, shuffle around, deal with things differently has actually been an amazing opportunity that many of us would not have stopped to do. And I think we're hearing a lot of stories about people who have realized how they may work from home one more day a week now, so that they can have that extra time with their little children. And yeah, they may not want to stay home 5 days a week, homeschooling their kids, but staying home on a Friday and working from home, and companies allowing people, because they can see now that this can be the way to do business. It may create efficiencies. There's all kinds of reasons. So it's been a bit of an eye-opener on a lot of levels.
There's a huge, I don't want to say learning curve, but there's a huge value to some of the things that we're doing that we never gave time or thought to, that really are going to stick with us. And that's going to readjust the way we do things. Even when we go back to whatever, it's never going to be the same. But when we go back to sort of the life that we knew when we were in lockdown, you know, even just with my clients who kind of like, I'm just going to do takeout, or they, you know, didn't care about cooking. They're now cooking,
I
you know, they're now doing what I've been talking to them about. But not in such a, like in the beginning, we all went to the comfort food, you know, not me, because I know I would have problems there. But, you know, a lot of people were like, well, number one, processed food lasts a lot longer on the shelf and a lot longer in our freezers than, you know, buying fresh, healthy food for you. I mean, let's face it, the aisles were the things that everything was missing from, and the outside perimeter of the market where all the fresh stuff was. There was, everything was available. And I get that, because people wanted to go home, stay home, and not go back out, and things go bad. But there are ways to make soups and freeze things, cook things up and freeze them, you know. And so I started to talk to my clients about that. That's what part of what I've been helping people with right now.
Amazing.
And they're going to take that. They're going to keep that. Even those things that don't have to do a career, but lifestyle itself, we're going to keep that. We're a little cleaner in our homes right now. We're the people that I've told them to brush your dead skin off, you know, you can just take a brush
little
before,
things you're taking,
you know,
time.
Little things, those things are going to be a value now that you never took the time to do.
And I think, you know, and it's so your world, this, you know, the mindfulness, the self-care, you know, I think we've all learned how to take a breath. You know, I think a lot more people are even just taking walks than ever before. And I think, you know, it's all a part of this. It's like, if not you, who? And if not now, when? And so, you know, as my title is Reinvent Your Life, what are you waiting for? This could not be a more perfect moment in your life to really ask yourself that question.
I agree wholeheartedly. And it's a great way to kind of wind things down here with that. What I want to do is be able to give the audience all the ways that they can start joining your virtual chats and get a hold of your book and get a hold of you.
Well, thank you.
If you, because a lot of people, we're on iTunes and we're on Spotify and we're on iHeartRadio and stuff. And so a lot of people are just listening and can't see us, even though we're putting stuff up on the screen. So if you could just tell everybody how to get a hold of you and how to be in those reinvention chats that are so valuable.
So the easiest thing is to go to my website, which is www.thereinventionexchange.com. And on there, you will find how to order the book. You will find a tab about the virtual chats with a Zoom link that you just have to RSVP to. You will find lots of blogs, lots of content, podcasts, interviews that have been done, all kinds of fabulous and interesting information, and years of content and blogs that I've written. I can ship books directly. So if you send me a note through there and you don't want to wait for Amazon, which God bless them, they're busy with essentials right now. So books are taking a little bit longer to get to people, but I am shipping directly from right here behind me. Every day I'm getting requests to send 1, 2, 3, 4 copies. With Mother's Day coming up, I think a lot of people are thinking about who else they can buy the book for, which is
that's a
quite
great
precious.
Mother's Day gift.
It is amazing, mothers, daughters, friends. I'm hearing a lot of people want to give it as a gift, which I'm most grateful for. And virtual chats at 3 days a week. We're doing them every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 2:30 PST, 5:30 EST. And I welcome the conversation. I welcome the community. I love what I do. I do this because I am passionate about inspiring people. I do it for a living in my business. I do it now in the nooks and crannies of my life with my book. And I just have a lot of fun doing it. And I so appreciate a chance to share this with you and your audience, Debbie. Thank you.
Oh, well, again, you're one of my favorite guests to have. I'm so glad I could highlight you. We talked about when the book was done, you were coming on, and here we are, and you've done it. We didn't expect that we wouldn't be in the studio doing it, but that's all part of what we're talking about today. So Kathi, leave us with some final words, some thoughts, some wisdom, anything that you want to say to the audience to sign us out.
I would like to say that I want you to have a dose of courage and a sense of self-entitlement to create the life that you want, to be as happy as you want to be. You deserve it, and now is the time. So go do that for yourself.
So cool. Thank you, Kathi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for my audience, a pleasure. And for my audience, I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you found some value. This was a really pertinent topic and so timely, I think, right now. And also, Kathi's book is just going to get you on that road to where you want to be. So really consider that. I also want you, self-care is really important right now. So do take care of yourself. It's something we talked about at the top of the show, and I'm very passionate about helping others to do that. So if you want to reach out, again, it's Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com. And if you're finding yourself stuck in 1, 2, 3 areas, let me help you get there. It's all free. I'm just here to help you right now. And I want you to keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. So goodbye, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Kathi. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.